see, make sure we're good to go over here on the channel. And I believe we are. Okay, so we've been making a lot of progress on these guys lately, and I think today we're gonna, this one, we're done over here, but we're gonna get this gent based up, and we're gonna make some adjustments to his backpack, and that's pretty much gonna be it. It's gonna be the whole project there. To do this, I'm going to use some Vallejo ground texture. It's a good, nice little pumice paste, and it dries very hard, like a glue. So what we're going to start with is just a little bit of this and a putty knife, and we're going to get it laid out on his base. We got to let it dry, and that's going to take quite a while. So we're going to get that ball rolling somewhat immediately. Separation at the top of this here. Like I say, it sticks to everything. I have, in the past, I've used this and it's worked out pretty well. The just the sprue cleaner from Games Workshop. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. You don't need anything special. Just something you can kind of smooth it around with. This is probably still too much. I don't want to get too crazy at one time and get this all over the model. We want, some up on the boots is okay. We can add a little mud at the bottom of the cape, but it should be deliberate and not so accidental. Let's get this smoothed around a little bit, and then get on to the next project, because this is, like I said, this is going to have to dry quite a bit. I will say, if you ever pick something like this up, and the next time I get some, I'll probably buy like a bigger container of it from like an art supply, buy like a Golden or a Liquitex brand, and then I'll have it forever. I say that I've had this one for a long time too, so it's probably the most cost-effective way to base up a whole army. Alright, clean this up. Smooth up the edges. Well, let me clean up the knife first. Use a paper towel here. So if you let this stuff dry, it dries pretty hard, so you don't want to leave it on your tools for an extended period. It will, like I said, it'll harden up on you pretty quick. Just cleaning up the rim. Okay, just like that, we got a nice brown texture going on here. It may take just a little bit. Try to make sure we have something here between his boots. It's a pretty tight portion of the sculpture, so it kind of is what it is. It would be recommended to have done this, without him glued on. You could just smooth the paste over the whole of the base, and then kind of set him on, and he'll make his little footprints. That would be the ideal thing, but he's already on here, and we'll work around it. I think that's plenty of room. We don't want to wading through too much mud. Just throw them down if we hit anything. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Now let's make sure, the most important part, that I didn't have any of this on my hand and handle any of the paint while we were at it. That would be a bummer. Just set this back over there. Clean up that. our diligence here around the trim, we can still have a nice clean base for the model. And maybe also, yeah, we'll do that real quick here. We'll get started on trimming out the base. I like to use a matte black along the base as well. I think that it helps out a ton with the overall appearance of the model. Here we're just going to add an adjective, just because this is a new pot of paint. Gonna just add a couple of agitators in there, especially with it being scale series paint. It's super thick and it separates real bad. So you want to. I don't know if I have a good needle to lance this thing. Yeah, here we go. We're good. This is gonna bubble out paint on me, so I'm just gonna hold it over my palette when I do it. That'll be my black paint for the session. Perhaps. Get this mixed up a little bit. I think trimming the base is like one of the most satisfying parts of finishing up a model. You just... That's good. All right, I'm gonna take a pretty large brush here. Need a little bit of water, just because scale paint is kind of thirsty to work with. And then, if you have a good consistency, you can really just use the edge of your brush, start to get pretty good coverage. Once this ground effect dries, here in probably 45 minutes or an hour, you'll be able to go through and start to paint the terrain with all the fun muddy colors that we think will work. I'm going to stick with like natural tones. Sometimes it's fun to like do some Mars reds and, you know, make some greens into the ground, like he's fighting in some odd far off place. Here, just one more pass, and then at the end we'll do one final cleanup with a little bit of varnish mixed into the paint, something to get it to adhere super nicely. But there you have it, one semi-clean base rim. 'Cause he's pretty much ready to go to his final home. Let me just adjust this a very little bit, try to brighten things up. I think today we may start out with a little bit of model assembly. I got a couple things I'm getting ready to work on, and I think it would be nice to start the assembly process on it. I just got these washed up last night. They're for Riot Quest. I have the Wanderer here. He's a kind of a samurai character in the game. Pretty sweet. And then I've got this tiny general. He's got this sweet personality. I'm gonna get them assembled. I've got both of those, and then I've got this big boss for the game, something that you can multiplay against. It's pretty cool. Normally you just play against, you know, player versus player, but here it's kind of like player versus the game. So I want to get these all assembled and then primed up. I thought it'd be a nice little project to get into while we wait on that basing to dry. Get out our essential tools here. I also have some marines that I'm working on. We're going to modify them as salamanders, and so we'll get that started today as well. That should be fun. So for now, these just got washed too, so I'm out here checking for water and anything that might have pooled up. Just saw a big puddle of water collected in here. So I think, you know, we may start with Big Hoss here. That looks like his arm for this. And to do this, we're going to utilize two things. One, super glue. I like the Loctite gel. Doesn't need to be the ultra control, but got the nerd in here. Good day, good day. How are you? So as always, we want to dry fit. And sometimes with the mold lines on metal and the resin pieces, you want to make sure that they still fit snugly. Sometimes you gotta, there'll be some flashing in here that you'll want to clean up first. These are very clean from Privateer Press, so you know, don't play brand favorites. Always hold them, making sure they're doing the right things and being true. So nerd, how are you today? The other thing we're going to use is this is a Bob Smith Industries product. You'll notice a lot of local hobby stores will have their branding on this. BSI, Bob Smith Industries. Bob makes the stuff. So if you're looking for good glue, or in this case a catalyst liquid, that's what we're going to be using. So we're going to apply our glue in here into this socket. Not a ton, but enough that it should spill out into the gaps. Because we're using a gel control, I can basically apply the glue where I want it. And it'll stay, it won't run. And then when we sandwich it together, we should get a nice clean gap fill. And by using the applicator here instead of the spray nozzle, should be able to very specifically apply it right in here. What this will do is kind of kick the glue into gear. And along the edges here, it will be a little fragile because this will cause it to dry like quick. So it'll be a little more fragile in the glue. That's a drawback. But if I do, the benefit is if I want to take them apart, or if I realize something needs to be like, he need to be sub-assembled a little, we can do that without breaking or bending the metal. And if you ever get rough with your models, then it'll come apart at that point, as opposed to snapping at like this little joint here. It's generally speaking quite a bit more fragile. The nerd says good, helping Snick with his supports. Like for printing. So here, we're not quite lining up. And when I dig in, look here, we got this little chunk of flash that's in the road. It's not allowing this little armpit here to sit snugly. So we gotta kind of dig into that. Now, on a metal model, this is gonna wreck your hobby knife. It's one of the biggest reasons why I use a scalpel. You pay for a solid amount for the handle, and then the blades are purchased in bulk. They tend to be quite a bit more economic on the budget. I find that when I'm using the scalpels, I will replace them far more frequently because they didn't cost me a bunch of money. And they're super sharp. So, I mean, you saw it just cut through metal like that. Let's check on here. I don't see any flashing on here. Now, much more snug fit, just like that. Still a little bit of gap, which we could fill, but it's so tight that we would actually run into a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my gel glue to help out with that. Nerd says, yeah, he's trying to print a large Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I love the Ninja Turtles. As his first print. Okay, so you're gonna get them all squared away. Stick's always so helpful to everybody. Anytime you get a chance to help out a friendly person like that, it's like you gotta. So here we've used a little bit of glue along the edges. I'm actually gonna use a little bit more than this. Back here, I want a little bit more. And then what we'll do is clean it up before we dry it. And so we're gonna sandwich this together. Not enough to get it to come out the front or the back, so take it apart. Let's go a little bit more along these seams. We're going to use this as our gap filling agent, is the intent. This is only really made possible because of the gel. You know, most glues would run immediately away. Alright, so now we're starting to get some gap filling. What I'm going to do is hold this steady for a little bit. I'm going to get a piece of paper towel. I'm just going to run the seam. Oops, that's the wrong one. I'm just going to make sure that there's no like excess that's squeezed through. We just want it to fill the gap. We don't want it to... There we go. Good to go. Catalyst up here. We'll put a little bit more down there. Again, using that applicator, we can get pretty surgical with it. Set him down a second. And you can see here we got a nice smooth joint there. Nothing, can't see down through. You can see where the glue is still hardening, and once we prime, I have every confidence that it'll be cleaned up. So next steps are, again, moved up a little bit, would be his torso, or I guess his legs getting connected to his torso. Then we have a couple little peripherals. One of them is this little goblin that rides on top. The nerd says, wish he was trying something smaller first. Well, maybe you should recommend that he does a smaller print to get things calibrated correctly. This is his little face of the robot. May or may not sub-assemble the head. We'll take a look. He's got some smokestacks. Oh, here's got some joysticks for the little goblin to control. So let's start with the legs before we get into the... Yeah, I see where stacks go now. Nerd says, I tried. He thinks it's not worth it to try something smaller. Well, you have a lot of experience in this, and if he thinks he knows better, then help him learn that maybe he doesn't. Okay, I see now that this doesn't actually fill the entire space down here, so we're gonna actually control where the glue sets. Let's try again. Let's see where we're gonna line up. That's right here along these two lines is going to require some putty work for sure. I'm not seeing a way to get it to set in there any better than this. So we're going to leave it like so. And I'm actually going to let this dry organically because this is a... that's going to be a big part of this. No, let's err on the side of caution. We'll put the catalyst down, and then if we need to break it apart, we'll be able to. Yeah, that's plenty of it. It only really takes a little dabble to get this thing working. Yeah, nerd, do what you can. You're being helpful, not trying to be rude or anything, so let that dry a little bit because it was a solid amount of glue. check these for flash because these are going to need cleaned up for certain. Have you been working on anything fun, nerd, lately? Any fun print projects? Any fun paint projects? I know I shared my progress with our little lady here. Need to finish out the eyes. But I got the pre-shading down. She'll need highlighted and so forth beyond this, but it's coming together. I like the shadows. That's only that's less than 3 hours of paint time. I think it's like 2 and change. It's the refining that takes a lifetime. All right, well that's drying. I'm actually gonna, let's see about getting the arm on this gent. And then we'll do some priming. Oh, so we got some, he has some movement. Where's the right place? That's the right place. It's always interesting with some of these metal fits. Oh, we got Kingbeard in the room. That new mat, so crisp, so clean. For now. Yeah, I also have a little piece that I'm going to bring over top of it for when I go to use my airbrush, and it should stay pretty clean. Also, they had like several different prices for these kind of mats, and I went with a lower costing one to see if I liked it. But I think that the nature of this will go a long way with making it last longer, or also just realizing that I'm going to go through to a year or so. The thing I was going to say before Kingbeard rolled in here with his beautiful face was sometimes with these metal fits, or any kind of model fit, you want to find the pinch point. Like there's going to be a pain point. Like right here in the back, it only fits one way correctly, and that's right here. But if you look at it from the front, it looks good multiple different positions. So you want to find the area where it looks like right here, where it's going to only fit correctly one way. We'll get him primed up. Nerd says, I don't have a lot of time to paint during the week. I will do some more work on my MAK pilot this weekend. I wish I understood more about those different like historic pieces. I'm just not as well versed as I should be, probably. They always look so sweet. Alright, for the Wanderer, let's do a little dry fit. He's going to have his blade this way? How's he holding this? Nope, it is this way. He's got such dainty little arms. Oh, I see how he has it. Alright, so we want to check out where this arm fits here, because that's going to be a pain point for assembly. And the wrists. Dry fitting is always used. And you also want to be careful. This is a point of note. Whenever you're assembling something that's flexible, like the metal, or people call it pewter, whatever. When it's flimsy like this, it's so thin. You look at his wrists and the blade. There's going to be play in it. Like it's not going to be straight. So you're going to need to bend it into the shape that you want it. And so sometimes when you're going to do your assembly, potentially things could have been banged around in shipping, so it's always good to check. Mikey RR with the afternoon. Well, hey Mikey, how are you? The nerd says 200 for a kit I have to build is too much for me. Oh, what did I miss? The nerd says all I know is MAK are expensive. This will probably be the only one I ever do. The robots are too expensive. Oh. I know some of those premium kits can be quite pricey. This is another one of those times here we're talking about the benefits of using a kicker or catalyst spray because of how fragile the sculpt is. if you have if the glue can occasionally be stronger than the connecting points. So let's see here. Oh boy. Just to get it to start drying. We getting an echo? Sorcerer 435, thank you so much for that follow. Something is going on with Streamlabs the end of the week. It would not play my my emotes at all, or my widgets, and then I had to reapply them, and so it took like I had to authenticate Twitch and Streamlabs to get things to roll. Oops. So I'm gonna apologize if things are odd. Thank you so much for that follow. It's Myford, by the way. Oh, what up, sir? That's connected. I don't know if anybody noticed that the hand up here kind of popped loose after I settled the first, but that can happen. It's just something to be cautious of. And when you're putting together metal miniatures, this stops being like a nice little benefit and becomes like essential. Like it's not optional. You wanna own this if your games that you're into or the models you're assembling are this white metal, because it just won't dry. You would need you'd have to have some advanced gear to like hold things together in place, which is still fine. Just be aware that you got to go that route, or you're gonna get glue all over you. So Sorcerer 435 rolling in here. Myford, how are you doing today? Accelerator, yeah. So this is you'll hear me call this a catalyst or an instant set, insta-set, whatever you want to call it. Accelerator. It's good for plastic and foam. Insta-set. It's from, if you ever want to look it up, it's called Bob Smith Industries. And it will make your glue, whatever you're using, it'll cause it to dry as soon as it touches it. It comes with a spray, but for the miniatures, I don't really play that. I just take I just touch the end of the little hose to it, and it drops plenty. It takes like a little bit. To be honest with you, I bought this probably 3 years ago, went through it, and when I needed more, I bought this, his big brother. I just fill the little guy up. Actually, I've used this, I've like topped off my friend's stuff before, so it's really, really good. Sorcerer 435 says, doing pretty good. Kicked the 2 starter for Riot Quest, pretty pumped. The new one, the winter one, I haven't gotten a chance to look at it. Andy was kind of negative, and so I don't know if I want to follow up with him on that, or what did you see that was good out of it? I need to take a peek. How much? And also, I might ask, how much time do I have? Winter in the first start. Oh, that's awesome. I just picked up the boss. He's Big Boss. What's his name? I might have to look him up. I don't have his box in front of me. No, I don't. So I picked up the boss mode fight. We'll check it out. I'll have to have a peek. If it's a huge savings, I'll probably get into it. If not, I may just wait and pick it up from a local shop. Depending. I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody. I want to order other things that aren't like readily available, so I might try to use this as an opportunity to make that happen. Okay, so we're gonna clean this flashing up here. This is a big piece when you're getting into like metal models. Right here, along where the mold lines are, if you don't have them crisp, they won't set in correctly, and you'll get a gap. You might think, oh, this is not a good sculpt or what have you. And so, like you see right here where we have this play, we know this part's clean, so I look down in there. What do we got? We got something right here. Mikey says, nice models, very cartoon. I love the theme of this game. Privateer Press, if anybody's interested. They are a small company in America, out in the Seattle region. They are really cool. I know they're going through like a rebuild phase, and this game is a product of that. They got a Kickstarter coming out this month as well. I saw people are going to start getting their Warcaster stuff here soon. That game looks really cool. I love the direction the company's going. But this guy, so in this game, Riot Quest, it's like a MOBA, but you play versus other players. This particular model can be played in game as one of your heroes, but he also has separate rules where he's all juiced up, and you got to fight him like 3 players, like 3v1 him to see if you can put him down before he executes whatever the objective is. And he comes with his own cards to do that. So some of us are going to be getting together in a couple of weeks just to hang out, small gathering, nothing big outdoors or anything, but trying to be safe. Oh yeah, and now look, much better. And I figured this could be a fun little portion of that hangout. Yeah, we're fitting snugly on each side. We got Batman in here. Batman says, I had no idea that Privateer Press was still going. Yeah, War Machine and Hordes is going through what I assume they're going to be assessing how that game gets played and the rules of it, and they've been working on smaller skirmish stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Oops. Try to put that in the wrong side. No good. There we go. Mikey says P3 paints are still hard to get. They are, but they're exceptional. You know, it's like you can look at professional painters in Spain and Poland, and you see all their stuff. Why did I put this away? I was talking about this stuff, and I just set it aside. And you'll see, like, they will have either Vallejo or AK or whatever they use. Citadel, like, they'll have, like, their range. Poof, like, all the paint. Massive ranges. And you'll see a little aside, and they will just have the whole P3 line. Because though they don't make every color imaginable, the colors they do make are very, very good. Alright, let's get this situated. That's how we want it. Make sure I didn't miss anything up here. Mikey says, I've ordered some shellac and some spirit dye. I'm going to airbrush my guitar. Oh, that's awesome. Sorcerer says, yeah, winter in the first starter. I think you have 5 days list. Sammy Grace rolling in. She says, good evening. Well, good morning. It's almost noon here. Hope you're doing well, Sammy. Mikey says maybe the whole company is in trouble. No, I would not say the whole company is in trouble. I would say that the company has been going through some issues, and that they've brought on a lot of people are leaving and new people are coming in, and they're trying to go through a rebuild. You can't fault them for making the needed changes. I'm gonna wait to put him in here. I think he might be a sub-assembly piece. Let's set this control panel here and see. Is there any flashing? No, that's pretty clean on the big boss. Let's check right here. I'm thinking I'm seeing some. I can't stress it enough. If there's the littlest mold line, it will jack your whole day up. Hootie Hoot says, hey, how's everyone doing? I'm doing great. The rest of them have to speak for themselves, but I think people are doing good today. Oh, yeah. All right, let's get a little bit of glue in there. I'm actually going to put a little bit more. Again, with this gel, we can play a little bit. And instead of having to do all this gap filling later in the process, I can sort of allow it to sandwich through and do some of that work for me. You can't get too crazy. You don't want it to, obviously you don't want it to like spill out and be a noticeable globule of glue. But if you take just a little piece of paper towel and tidy it up, you can get a pretty seamless effect. Just drop a bit of that down there. And these are flexible, which is nice because we're going to have to line up his hands. That is a reason to be afraid of sub-assembly. All on its own. Just a little handy go. So he's all rocked back like this. And this little lever needs to come back to him. Oh my. Alright, so he's got to get sat before we can do that. Alright, let's get him in there. Hootie says, oh, let me catch up. Bannon says, I used to love the War Machine. I had an army of Protectorate of Menoth. Oh, so pretty. They had amazing models. Yeah, I love the aesthetic because they got like that big steamy power armor, and then they had the Menoth specifically have those beautiful robes on as well. I really do dig that kind of contrast. Hootie says, I'd be disappointed if they changed how War Machine plays. There's already a game where you just chuck dice and scoop up dudes, and that's not a game I want to play. Yeah, I would hope that they don't change the vibe of it. There's just some competitive adjustments that need to be made for how the rules are written, but I love in general, and this is true of all of their game styles, the just have fun and enjoy your game style. There's an expression called beer and pretzels game. You'll see that around like different complexities of board game as well. And they tend to have nice beer and pretzel games because you don't have to worry about the rules. You can't get too tied up with like who's winning because there's a little bit of random nature to it. And that's fun. To me. Mikey says, I found Vallejo alternatives to all my P3 paints except Hammerfall Khaki, Trader Green, and Thornwood Green. Those three are gorgeous. Nobody plays Warmahordes around here. I think it's more popular in the U.S. Yeah, well, I mean, that's where the game's from. It'd be like, I put them in the same vein as Corvus Belli with Infinity. I see a lot of similarities in their channel sizing and the games that they produce. So here's one of those things where it could look good one way or another, but it's only looking correct like this from over here. So a little bit of adjustment. And also chit-chatting a little bit so that the glue started getting tacky. It's a subtle little trick there. Alright, we'll let him dry. I love the good nature here. So, like, this robot was rebuilt and he's driving. I think its name is Melvin and Mayhem. And let's just be honest, the robot's Melvin, right? Like, Mayhem is this guy. He's the little gobber. He's got, like, 3 different little lenses up here on his face. I think that is the whole model. Like the power sword on this guy. You know, this guy's just a walking power sword. Or over here. Like he's a robe and a power sword. I think this is where my focus will be. And so, the next piece. To bend and manipulate this lever into place. I didn't check this guy for flashing yet, so I'm not going to connect that lever until we go through and clean it up. Let me see if I'm punched in or not. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. New camera lens placement lets me get like up on the model quite a bit. I'm digging that a lot. So when we look at him, you can see where we did the gap adjustment. So his chair is pretty darn seamless. And right here along the joystick, this hose where it connected, you can see we have a pretty snug fit on account of we let the gel come a little bit out and then wiped it back smooth. Also along these shoulders, there may be a little bit right here. So you see. So what we can do is actually take this glue, put a little bit down, take our paper towel, smooth it out. I got overzealous. Don't look at that as a tutorial, more of a generalized what you should be trying to accomplish. We can let it dry like that. I'm going to do the same thing up here, in this joint as well. Just push into that gap, fill it over. And once we get a coat of primer on this, those little gaps will stand out like a sore thumb, so we'll be able to go through and clean them up with putty and what have you and go from there. But I like to use the glue for little bits of these steps. It's very inexpensive, it's always out and accessible. Hard to go wrong with it. Mikey bringing up that nobody plays Warma Hordes around them. I think that's it doesn't matter what the game is, you're gonna gravitate towards the sorry, my finger's stuck a little bit. That's the game that you're gonna play regardless, whatever your friends are into. I think about a lot of the video games I played that were terrible, but it's what my friends were playing, and so it's what I was playing. The last piece for him is going to be his head. So we're going to check. And here you can see that mold line. This is the important piece. So and this is a Citadel product, but to me it makes one. It's just a very hardy piece of metal. It's flat. What you do is you just want to scrape away that piece of flashing. This is super effective on plastic, like Games Workshop stuff, or Reaper bones. Not bones. You don't want to scrape the bones plastic because it's too soft. I should re-speak. But Reaper has metal models as well, and certainly here from the anything that's resin, anything from the Privateer press line. And I don't feel out a little bit. It's hard. It's funny that you can't see it, but then you can feel that there's a little texture there. So let's clean this up a little bit. Let's check the other side here. I don't see anything in there. Let's see how smoothly we connect. So that looks like he could go in there pretty good. But before I do, I'm actually going to mix up a little bit of two-part epoxy here. We're going to do a little... We've got some areas that need to be repaired. I'm going to punch back out so we can see what's going on here. I got some Aves epoxy sculpt. It's a two-part situation. This, I'm just going to grab a little nib of each. That should do. So we're just going to get these two, get mixed up, and then we'll get them together. And what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild these little joints here where we have this big old gap. Nerd says, oh, with the link. Hootie says, I'm sorry, I don't know if I just read this or if I said it earlier, but Hootie Hoot was mentioning that he didn't think that, or they didn't think that Privateer Press had distribution set for the UK. That's probably correct. The Nerds sends a link and says, that list says Vallejo Game Color Elfic Flesh is pretty similar to Hammerfall Cocky. Yeah, pretty similar, and the best is sometimes different. Hootie says, never seen epoxy come in tubs. Yeah, they come in this size or like real big. They'll come in like big containers. You can mix it up depending on what you're trying to do. But this is an epoxy sculpt, and so you can actually use this if you want to like make something out of clay. Like if you were going to make something big, like a big time sculpture. I like this stuff a lot because it can be applied. It needs to set up a little bit. Let's get it. It's really good for when you like put something on a base and it's like a nice resin base and they're not going to quite line up with the textures. You can take this and really like sculpt some mud around their foot or in quite a controlled way. And it's not expensive. You can buy this from any hobby shop or any art supply. Aves, what is it? I don't see it. Oh wait, there it is. It's on this one. It says AVES, Aves. Fine clays and maches. It's 50-50 AB mix. These are just the little containers. I go through so very little of it because I am not a sculptor. However, there are times like this where we maybe take a little bit, put this on the outside of this. This is not the right tool for this. Get a better tool. Use my finger a little bit here to help get it saturated in there. Sometimes it's beneficial to let something like this dry a little bit, let it set up a little bit, and then you can manipulate a little bit easier. The Nerd says, let me rephrase. That list says it's the best alternative. Yeah. This in here and let it start to set up a little bit. It's a delicate balance. It's, you know, it's a 50-50 mix, but you never get it 100% to the 50-50. It's like sometimes you'll have a little bit too much. I don't remember which one, A or B, is the one that makes it harden faster. But I know different people that are more adept at this that will manipulate. Like they'll go a little less of the hardener so they have more working time with it. And then meanwhile, some people will add a little bit more of that hardener so that they can work more quickly. It just depends. I clearly need to mute my phone. Okay. You've shown me something. We'll mute it a little quicker. Mikey says, to the Nerd, I've tried a few alternatives. I've been disappointed every time. I'm just not scooping up pots as soon as they appear on eBay. The reality is that Privateer Press colors are good. They are uniquely good at what they do. And I know that, like, when I say that you look in the background of professional studios, whether they be, you know right now that they don't have UK distribution. You look at famous Russian painters, Spanish, Polish, Japanese. Look in the back. You're going to see Privateer Press paints. They find them. They will find them. They're good. Alternatives are, acceptable uses to get a result, but they're not going to be the same. There's a reason why they saw fit to have it ordered in as opposed to using something they already own. Let alone when you see the American painters, it just, you know, we get a little spoiled by it. Starting to smooth that out a little bit. As it hardens, we'll be able to work better. Like I say, I am not the one to learn this from. There are plenty of better sculptors out there. But in general, this is what we do. When I say that a little bit goes a long way with this epoxy, look at all the more I've used. And I'm taking most of it back off. It's a process. Nerd says we get spoiled unless we want scale colors. Ah, yeah. That's another one. Scale and Chimera. Then it's going to cost us, yes. And I own some of both. Actually, I own the Chimera line because that's how you get it, but... the Chimera painter's studio painter, he uses privateer press paints. This is just a dental tool. Get in there. Stop that. Alright, so there's that. Let's see how the head fits in here now. Quite a bit better looking through the midsection, I would say. Alright, so I'm going to set this sculpt aside. We may be able to use that a little more later on for other things before it hardens. It may harden and then it goes in the garbage. The way she goes. Mikey says to the nerd, next year UK is going to struggle to get European brands, EU brands. Oh, man. What makes that happen? Just the Brexit thing. I'm super ignorant of the comings and goings of political things in my own country, let alone foreign affair. Right now we're in such a tumultuous time that I don't have the energy, so to speak. There we go. 3 models assembled. Not so bad. What do we think? Anybody want me to do some more assembly, or should we move on to some paint? What do you think? Anybody interested in how I prime things? There it says it'll be the same as any other countries trying to import from other countries. Mikey says the interim agreement between the UK and EU ends at the end of the year, and nobody knows how much progress has been made towards a trade agreement with COVID. Oh yeah, we're all in a weird spot with that, eh? Nerd says if I order stuff from the US into Canada, I have to pay for it. Yep. Everybody's doing crazy stuff right now. Alright, so we got the primer mixed up. I don't know if anybody else... We could assemble Adrax. I've got him ready to go for a project, but... I think this is good. This is good. We'll do this. Let me move these brushes to the side. Set these guys back a bit. I think his base is starting to get dry enough that we can go through and do that as well. And what I'm going to do to get my tools, my assembly essentials, right here. Here they are. These are this is my A team. This is my Go kit. We got the pin vise there to be able to pin my models. We got the scalpel. We got the flash remover. Make sure none of this epoxy dries on it. And my plastic nippers. I'll use this on resin. Is the hardest material I'll use these on. Keep them sharp. And the scalpel blade, we just replace as needed. And then, of course, we have the dental tools. They're plentiful. Okay, so here... I'm just going to lay this down to protect my new mat. Let's see, I don't, with the new camera placement, I'm not certain. Yeah, we're good. Alright. So, I'm going to use one of these to help with the priming process, and I believe I have more behind me. Tiny general. And then I have this little base here, so this little plate, and I'll share this up here. So basically, you can just put these down here, stick them in there. So I'm going to use that to let them dry. I do not know what our answer is for this, for Big Hoss here, just yet. He's going to be too heavy. I think the reality is he's going to get primed in 2 layers. You know, we'll set him. One of the nice things about this is that the standard cut pegs will kind of work. So when he's level, I might be able to balance him. We'll see. See how she goes. Make sure that my compressor's on. Nope, it's not. Thinking yeah, we're good. I always use the Badger Stynylrez primers. They are my favorite. Here I've made a yes, because that's obviously what's going to happen. I got this new mat underneath here. Okay, so we're going to start here with the Wanderer. And you want to go slow with this. Even with a rattle can, you want it to be a gradual build up. What this first layer is going to do is, I'm going to say this, it's basically applying a texture that your paint will have something to stick to. And in this case, our initial coats of primer. But more importantly, all we're doing is finding the mold lines, and we're going to clean those up before I finish the priming process. So we're going to let this hit, and it's like a magnet for any mold lines. And then we'll come through and apply our zenithal highlight and find the rest of the detail. This gradual buildup is so important. I know they're going to disappear here for a second, but we'll bring them back. Disappear isn't like when they get hit with something so dark, their details go seemingly away. Power of some dark color. Okay, so we'll set him up there to dry. We're going to do the same thing with the tiny general. This is the important step for finding details like your missing flash lines. You're going to find out where the cracks are from your assembly, or if there's, because we're dealing with metal models, it's just too much. You notice it hit wet and stayed wet. That's how you can tell you deployed too much paint and not enough air. Too fast. Anything that might have hit a little too wet as I was trying to cover a detail on the gun, and I noticed there's a little bit of overspray on the base of the model. Now these nicer primers, like I'm using here from Badger, it's important to note they will shrink as they dry. And that's the value of them, so they don't obscure detail. They dry super thin, dries super thin, and so with that you gotta make multiple passes on them. But I'm set incorrectly. But you know, make sure. But I think it's important to not, clog up your details on your model. You spend so much time working on them. It's like the last thing you want to do is have a bunch of a glob of something in there that's gumming up the works and taking up all the time you've put into it. Anyways, enough politics, says Mikey RR, and let's enjoy our Saturday. Bandit says, what's the biggest model you have ever painted? The biggest model I have ever not finished, oops, bumping into the new camera placement, sorry about that, is this George Sukuzidis, My Face for Scale. He's all beard and snoot. Mikey says, nerd, what does YYC stand for? The Calgary Airport designation. Oh, yeah. But yeah, that's the biggest piece I've ever worked on, really. He's sketched in, got a nice dynamic undercoat. I just need to finish him. But I I ran into too many other projects, and this guy's for me, and so I haven't finished it yet. Needs to happen. That's an impressive beard, right? George Soukousidis. He's a phenomenal sculptor from Greece. So let's see how we did with these gap fills on the bottom here. Like I said, primer will expose your gap filling, your sculpture, any little texture. This thin layer of this will pick it up. Here on this arm, the ball of this arm, you're going to see how lightly we're laying this down, or at least attempting to. And because I don't have a good way to hold on to a model like this size, he's going to need. And we're doing multiple coats anyway, but we're absolutely going to have to be prepared to handle it. And you have to give a good cure time on metal models because the primer will slough right off if you don't. A hairdryer at least. Miniature, like hobby holding grips, they become a lot less negotiable when you're working with metal. Painters tend to, not to say dislike, because they have such crisp sculpts. They're so good on the detail. But when you're working on something, if you rub or drop, or they're not very accident resilient. Let's see if he'll set here in this little base that we were talking about. And survey says he will not. We'll lean him. Goodness. Like he says, if he's Greek, would his name be pronounced Jorg? Ubrim says 2 thin coats. We need about 1 thick coat. So I do it a lot of the time. Watch yourself. Ubereems, how are you today? You can see my little whoopsie did there. Already rubbing the primer off of places, so. This is not the worst thing because most of this is experiment in locating these mold lines anyway. So. On here, and then we'll start to let it cure, and we'll pick up the other 2. Alright, I would be very happy if I could get him to stationarily stand somewhere. Those little feet. There we go. Alright, let's go back to the Wanderer here. So now we can start to look for mold lines on the piece. I don't know. I suppose we can. Let's take a look and see what we can find. Now, I cleaned up his blade a little bit. The things that I didn't look for were across top of his hat. There's nothing egregious there. So at this point, I think I did a good job, and so I'm confident we can go through and start saturating our color. Get the primer to really cover every detail. Like insist that it ends up in the recesses. A lot of times there'll be little pieces you'll find before you get into the next step, and I'll just go through and just like with a manual brush fill out those details. I'm gonna have to check my phone in a second. I'm getting all kinds of notifications. Okay, and that's the Wanderer. We can punch back out. Let's check out the Tiny General. He's such a fun sculpt. He appears to have a little bitty line here. All right, hang on. Can already see one. That's how you know it's gonna be a good one. Set the airbrush down for a bit. Where's our flash cleanup piece? There it is. Because he's metal, he may be. Occasionally, the metal models can be a little more persistent, so I also get my scalpel ready. Kind of get something a little bit sharp. Mikey says, at Nomadic, would a white zenithal help you see the mold lines? It will, like it'll be more apparent, but I try to spot them before I go through that effort. You know, if I missed one, they'll show up then. But I didn't even. I don't sometimes, and here's a good example. I didn't even go over the piece yet for mold lines, mostly because I didn't want to fuss with it. Already got paint on. Christening the new mat. This is good. All right, we'll set him down. The big robot already fell down, so it's probably better just to let him sit. Okay, so there is a mold line right here. I'm looking at this other hand pretty closely. Not seeing anything. So it was just this cuff. Yeah, I think that's it. And a dry brush that always helps pop detail. You like the dry brush? I dry brush big things. Oh hey, we got some dry tip. That's what's happening here. All right. Now that we're back at it, the Zenithal Prime's coming directly next. I zenithal a little bit differently than most people, so please feel free to judge how I do this. I know everybody has their own tactics. This is actually coming to YouTube. I've done this in great detail for how to prep a resin model, and I think I'm finally getting the editing to a point where I'm comfortable releasing it. Alright, so we got just a couple little details here. Alright, let's set that aside. Let me see what these messages were about. Okay. And then let's go back to the Wanderer. So remember what we talked about before about how it shrinks when it dries? You can see even along the rim of the hat, and right here we got a big old missed opportunity. Inside of the leg, edge of the blade. goes. It's just the little things. I'm not even gonna. Well, I suppose we can worry a little bit about the robot. Let's see. Let's see what Big Hoss has going on here. And backs of the legs. Guaranteed those just rubbed off because that's what happens with the metal. It's just the nature of the thing. Let me set this down real quick. This should help with the curing time or handling time of the piece. Because if not, it's just going to slough off the moment I need my fingers. Hit these guys as well. And back to, again, how this primer works. You can see these little detail portions where you can start to see through it. And so what I like to do, this is not a knock on anything, it's just the way it works. I'll get my headset tangled, hang on. And an entanglement. Where is my beat up brush? I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint out of the airbrush pot. There's not too much to even be had now. Here we go. And we'll just hammer that into those select spots. There's a tension value where stippling actually causes it to deposit less paint, and so it'll dry smoother. So even though you're making a jabbing motion with the brush, is my recommended method with primer, especially. That's why when people are doing the micro glazing and trying to make things look super, super good, super, super smooth, they also stipple that. So get that done here for him. Let's go back to the Wanderer. His little feetsies. Again, it needed some love. The edge of the blade here needed some love. Couple of these little underneath points. Okay. Then what do we have? Oh yeah, this whole hand needs some support. These couple little details here. Some things that just the nature of the bigger piece. But you want to make sure you have that good coverage because it is so temperamental on the fact that it is metal. So if you don't get good coverage, you're going to have gaps, you're going to have flaking. Just in general, it'd be hard to want to game with a piece like that. So now after that hair dryer already, we're able to handle the model a little bit more. So I think our next step will be a little bit more primer. Not a ton. A little bit. And then we'll get on to the adding the white over so people can see how I do that. Oh, good Lord. I did not have the quick disconnect apparently connected correctly. I have never had that happen. Alright. I think it's going bad, actually. Because I've been having issues with, like, it just sitting there connected and needing to be, like you'll hear the compressor kick on when I'm not shooting air, so it definitely has a leak. And I think it's around the disconnect. I'm seeing more and more little signs. I'm trying to get up in the back of the head here. That need new. But I guess every time you pop the airbrush off, it makes sense. Of course. Okay. Well, big dumb robot is causing me some stress right now. Oops, sorry about bumping the camera, everybody. Set these two down. Bring him over. We're gonna get a little smarter about this. Use a little poster tack to help us out. So there we go. Now he's doing better. So the biggest thing we're going to bump into right now is that I need to get the airbrush completely clean of water or of black paint. So that can take a little bit of effort. But then we'll move on to the white. I'm just trying to rinse out the pot a little bit, agitate the needle, make sure there's nothing that backfilled, because that'll bug you. People backfill all the time and it causes more problems than good, in my opinion. Don't recommend it. Oh, look out, what's this? I'm seeing a little chunk of dried paint that's sloughed down in there. It'll cause a clog in a hurry. Come on now. Don't do this to me. It's fighting. We'll get it. Alright, let's see what we have. Let's say we're in a good spot. So, to do zenithal highlighting, what I like to do is go with a super thin white paint, and I've actually found that I enjoy the Liquitex titanium white a lot for this. So let me get it mixed up because it separates really badly. So yeah, I like a lot this for my priming. And then because it's a prime layer and we need to have some texture, I'm going to put a little bit of ultra matte varnish in. Matte varnish has a lot more tooth on it, just doesn't dry as smooth. If you're trying to get a wash onto a model or trying to run a pin wash, something like that, it makes a lot of sense to use a high gloss varnish. But here we go with, put quite a bit of this in here because we got 3 models we're about to work on. And then our white. Just doing like a 1-to-1 ratio there. And then I'm also going to take it back a little bit here. Just a little thinner. Make sure that I don't have any paint left in this brush from when I was cleaning it out. Seems okay. Get this mixed up. You can always make more. This doesn't spill, so I'm gonna put the lid on. If I don't, guaranteed it will do that. Alright, so here we are with the Tiny General. Test it on my thumb. We'll get good, nice, thin. Hit him from like a 90-degree angle, like a straight on, the whole way around, and I'm going to hit him from the top. The reason being is in this game they're all heroes, so they're going to get a little bit more. On a typical model, I would just ignore a little bit the back, just leave it dark, like dark. So we're going to hit him from a 90 the whole way, and then he's going to get the good stuff from the top. So there we have a nice prime, but because he's, you know, something special, we're also going to come in here, let it on his face. Add a little bit more there. We'll let him set back and dry. Now we're going to do the same thing with the Wanderer. Start very lightly all the way around with this straight on. Just bring it pretty tight here to get a little bit more pocketed light on his torso. Then we'll do the same thing on the back. Maybe not to the same degree on the back, but again, we want a nice light source here. And then Sorcerer with the donation. What's this? Wait, what's this? Danny M. Who brought this on? Getting to donate. Danny M says, "Am I seeing things? This is me on a Saturday. You seeing me with the sun up." Myford, what was this about? Says, just a tip. All right, and so here, from this angle, let's start to add a little bit more around the face and the torso, and then again the blade will be what it will be. That's me. I'd like to start adding something in a little bit Saturday mornings. Sorcerer says give you a little something, something. Alright, let's bring this whole apparatus in. We'll see how well this holds up. This robot, I maybe need to just get him pinned and get some things figured out. So I'm going to see if I can bring us in a little bit more here. No, we got it's this direction. Oh yeah, we're in focus. We're in focus, people. Pointless lemurs. What is this word? Pointless lemurs? Hello, hello. Welcome on in. We're just working on some priming. This model is so big, I gotta have him down here. I'm just gonna get this little, just a little bit of detail, you know. We're gonna get him at this angle as well. We gotta give him a little spinny spin because we gotta pay attention to the back of the model as well. Just to grab those details, and we'll see the additional mold lines that possibly get missed. Source, we're coming in with the donation. It's always humbling when I get a donation like that. Make you feel good. Feel like you're doing something productive with your time, and then to have it happen from a friend, it's like, oh boy, you've done anything with these dollars. Oh no, we had a clog. At least when the overspray happened on like a weapon. So this guy up top here, this little goblin, we're gonna focus a ton of detail on him. He's probably gonna be the most important part of the piece. These two need to stop falling together. And so right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start giving him even more highlights. We're gonna bring him up quite a bit brighter. We're also going to do the same thing down here on the robot's face, and then out here on his fists. Even the shoulders. We're all going to get quite a bit more love, respect, and paint. We've run out. So we're going to do just a little bit more mixture, because everybody here is going to need one more pass. So instead of doing 6 drops, I'm going to do 3, about roughly half what we had been doing. Maybe even dilute a little bit more with the airbrush thinner. Nomadic says, nice dude, I can hang out in these streams. Well, yeah, wonderful. Yeah, the plan is to get an evening that I can do consistently, as well as a Saturday. So what it may end up being is like every other Wednesday and every other Saturday, but it may also be other things. I just don't know. I'm trying to get it to that point, and then, you know, obviously we got to be consistent with it. Okay, we have our business back in order. And you can see when it dries a little more muted. So again, here we're finding his face, finding his knuckles. I don't know if I'll be able to make much more progress on these before I get to game with them, but we'll at least have them in this state, this good, prepped and ready to rock. Big piece like this could be a lot of fun. Since he's a boss, and like he could be a lot of fun to work on or fight against. I think I'm gonna do a really nice paint job on him. And because he's turning, I can't show you on here because he won't let me pick him up. But we're gonna do one side darker than the other. Setting up these details here as well. Hitting that lurk. All right, all right. Allow me to hit this with just a little bit more. I'm here in a second. I'll pan the camera back and we'll take another look at these gents. The legs get a little more attention as well. Crazy how well it dries off and falls away. good place. We can actually start to get them put down onto a base and go from there. Let's dump this. Just cleaning out the airbrush a little bit. Clean up the needle. Good. Okay. Done with that. Done is done. We're gonna hit them each with a hairdryer real quick, and then we're gonna keep rolling. Mikey says, never think to go so light on my zenithal. I always stop at mid-gray. Yeah, I think sometimes it's important to really punch up what you're doing in the highlighted areas. It helps you see the contrast that you're looking for. Granted, this is all gonna get covered up. It's really not that big a deal, but I do like to do that. Give me a moment here. I'm gonna bring it. I'm sorry this is loud, but I'm very bummed that this affects the poster pack, and then I have to when he falls. So basically, we just want to make sure that. Oh, that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. Bummer. But hopefully he's dry enough that it didn't just jag up his face. He's okay. He's actually really toasty, to be honest about it. Stay there. Don't do this to me. Okay, let's get this off of here. Get our focus fixed. Let's get back at it. Also, I think we can do some painting on the Tiny General because Trollbloods are one of my armies, and I know what it is to paint them. Something I was working on recently, sitting right there. Oh yeah, this guy. Cork base here. Let it bite down on that peg that he's equipped with. Just gonna push it down a little bit harder than normal, a little bit farther than normal, so it has a stronger bite, so he doesn't come flying off. Let's see. Make sure that's in there. Okay. All right, now we already have some black paint on our palette. Now I think we can go through and confirm the prime, make sure everything is good in there. We didn't make any mistakes. And here we can see already we have a little bit of that. It says Skirmish says, I assume this is Warhammer 40K. Also, your beard is glorious. This is actually for Privateer Press. A little bit different than 40K. There we go. Now we're focus. Set this aside a little. Well, hello. Close your thumb today. My thumb is black and white because I'm priming. Like he says, might try that. Yeah, it's not a bad technique to try. I like it a lot. I think it's valuable. You need much more paint to get in here. Actually, I think I'm not really happy with the security of this pin. I don't think it has enough of a bite to do the work we need. So I'm actually gonna put a pin in his other foot. Now you can use a pin vise for this, but it's gonna be terrible. Snick in the building. If anybody in here is into artists and not following Snick, you probably should. But pin vicing can be very hard on metal models. And so I like to use an actual drill. My work here is done. Rolled in, saw how the thumb is. That'll be all. So here in this dimple, we're going to see if I don't ruin my prime work here doing this. I should have done this sooner. Up. Okay, and then what are we going to use for the pin? Just a tiny piece of brass tubing. That should do it just fine. All right, let's get the drill aside. Like I say, a pin vise, little hand drill, perfect for plastic, resin, no problems whatsoever. But boy, it takes a lot of effort to do what I just did by hand on these harder metals. Line. I'm just gonna set them on this cork. That'll help dry pretty quick. Then I'll have a nice bite on that cork, and I don't have to worry about it flopping around. The metal models are just so heavy that the slightest shift in them, it really does cause when their weight turns, they really do fall pretty quickly. And Mikey, here's another option on when I do that zenithal prime and highlight. This is going to be the piece that the YouTube video is on. The Hellboy. Alright. It'll be dry. Centered a little bit better. I won't have to worry about them spinning whenever I just push it down in there, whenever I turn them. Alright, now I was working on trying to make sure we had enough primer on the bottom side of some of these areas. That would be right in there. Underside of the gun is also lacking. These little details, I don't recommend skipping. You gotta, especially on a nicer piece like him. I might be running out and grabbing a little more coffee here in a second. And then to do the skin tones, I really like to, for my Troll Bloods, I have this nice, what do I want to say, not recipe, but I do have my go-to colors here. And so, Batman says, is the idea of the metal bit in the stand so you can anchor your hand when you're painting? Yeah, so it's multi-parted. Let me find another color I'm looking for, and then I'll show you exactly what this does for you. Why I justify the expense on it. Coal black. There's my Troll Blood skin tone. We need that. I think this is the Troll Blood skin from Privateer. I just think it's so pale. I add a little bit of something to it, a little Meridius blue. Make it a little more vibrant. And then I also need a couple of inks. I like to play around with some inks when I'm doing my, well, just in general when I'm painting. So color. I need my purple. I don't know what purple is. Just it'll turn on. We'll deal with that in a second. So for right now, here, step one, get the troll blood color out. He doesn't have a ton of skin tone, so I don't need to get a bunch of this mixed up or anything. But Skirma asks, how long have you been painting miniatures? So let's take a look. It hasn't been so long, but in the back of my mind, I always feel like it's been a lot shorter time than it is. If we go to I started using my Instagram to track my painting. I painted a little bit when I was younger, but nothing, like I never finished any models. I mostly just owned them and then worked on stuff. So if we go to my Instagram here, when I sat down and decided it's time to learn to paint, it was August 27th, 2018. So we're about to round out 2 years of actual effort in trying to learn how to like actually buy stuff, sit down, paint the things, and learn how to do it. So I would say maybe 3 years total from like the time I started buying stuff. Let's see here. We're going to use a rather big brush. This is a nicer Raphael 8404. This is size 4. Which blue was the second? So it's the Troll Blood base that we're using, and then the Meridius blue, like just a little spot of this, something to add a little bit of color to it because it is kind of desaturated. I like vibrant colors. I like the idea of the metal bit in the hand. So we're going to cover that in here in just a second because I'm going to start to paint. And the Hootie Who said, which blue? That was that. Danny M says, hey, that was my son. Nice. Hope they're having a good day, Danny. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to mix up some Sanguine base. And so the Sanguine base is going to be my shadow color in the skin tone. So it's going to make a nice purple once you get this blue added in. And I'm not going to worry about highlights just yet. What I am going to do is we're going to start with this nice desaturated purple as our shadow color. I'm going to start underneath this chin up in here. We're just going to follow and effectively just sketch the highlights and shadows that our Zenithal Prime just laid down for us. Where's his hat lie there? So it's really not so much. Just gonna not clean my brush, but I'm gonna rinse the excess paint out, and then I'm gonna grab my skin tone. And we're gonna start to kind of meet those colors. Allow that wet blend transition to occur. Color, the shadow tone. Just work that transition a little bit in either direction. Let's go to the side of the hand here. Here we'd be accepting of that dark color because it's back on the side of the model. And then at the top, we're just going to grab a little bit more of that vibrant blue without the purple. I'm still working with the new camera placement, so if I'm not tracking, please holler at me. Man Blade, thank you so much for that follow. I'm sorry for the echo we're experiencing today. Streamlabs has been a proper turd to me lately. Thank you so much for that follow, though. Welcome on in. If anybody's working on anything fun, please share up. It's always nice to look at people's hobby progress. This wet blending that I'm doing is a key to how to eye paint things quickly, but also smoothly. So I'm just laying this shadow color down in the shadows. I'm grabbing my next brighter color. I'm putting it down across the tops of things where they belong. Just kind of filling in the blanks on the zenithal highlight we did earlier. He's got a lot more chest up in there than I thought. All right, get that there, tightened up. More of the shadow tone, and we're gonna make this even more bright here in just a second too. As soon as I can put eyes on my purple, I don't know what happened to it. I was moving some stuff, so that always has a chance to play into it. We can't have gone too far. What could it have? Way it goes. Let's check over here. It's losing my sense of humor with this, I suppose. There it is. So the two things we're going to use to bolster this skin tone is going to be two inks. We've got the deep violet and the cerulean blue, and these are very, very good colors for like pigment density, and they are also really, really vibrant. So it's not going to make too much of an adjustment to our miniature, and it really is like truly gonna make him jump off the tabletop. So we're going to take a little bit of this. I'm just going to add that on the palette directly, and we'll just mix it into our shadow color. And then I'll get the, just because pigments tend to soak through the parchment, I'm going to wait, and we'll add the blue here in a second. And we're going to glaze this back once it's mixed in with our blue and our purple that we already had. Up a little bit. I'll use my thumb here to check our. It's not too bad at all. And so what we're going to do is just pack this color up in to our shadows. So back here in the recesses where we're kind of desaturated, we're going to use that really bright purple. It's just glazed. Put that into those shadows. I may even use the airbrush a little bit, but probably not a ton. Down in here as well. And even though it's super, super vibrant, it makes sense, because it's a purple, to be up in there. It adds a little something to the piece. same thing back here into these knuckles. Just kind of smooth that around a little bit. Keep it nice and smooth. Where are we? Oh yeah, this was the blend. Stipple this into the shadows of things. Because we're going to come through with the next color and we'll smooth it out. I'm not even going to bother too much with the face, but get some of this washed down into these recesses here along the hand.
Issue punching on these details.
Right, so we're just kind of clicking down into these crevices, adding that little bit of contrast. Because it's a glaze, it'll go on thinner where we start and thicker where we end our brush strokes, so I'm able to kind of control where things land. And the nice thing, get his little belly button. Get the edges of this as well, all around his regalia here. He's got all these metals. I don't want to go too much further because we're going to end up probably making mistakes as I paint his glasses and get everything else detailed out in here. But for right now, we're just kind of sketching the volumes, getting the right colors. We'll do a little bit in here on his dimple here on his hand. Make doubly so here on the dark side of these knuckles, because we want his hands to be quite heavily contrasted. By doing so, we'll be able to get a lot of detail out of that. If it's all just vibrant or all just dark, it doesn't have that pop. You got to have both. All right, so we have that brush. We're going to use the airbrush here for this next step. It's going to be this in light of the same thing we just did with the Zenithal Prime. We're going to get everything kind of adjusted. I'm not going to use... Ooh, hang on. I'm going to get a thinner in first. If you don't put the thinner in, your pigments will just start drying in the bottom and you have a bad time. So, put a little thinner in the brush, a couple drops of this, get it mixed up and check, see if that's a good amount or if it needs more. It's not always super obvious what it should be. Different strengths of color, you know. The other thing I need to add into here, because it is supposed to be a highlight, we don't want it to be too stark, too quick, is I'm going to get a brush load of our blue mixture, that Meridius and Trollblood base. Having a little bit of that present will go a long way as well. Even a little touch of that purple. The whole mixture is a part of this, so your shadow tones are still a little bit a part of your highlight, so to speak. Okay, it's a pretty good mix we have there. I'm going to add just a couple drops of our varnish to make sure that we don't get any spotting or staining. You know, colors that are vibrant tend to stain, so I like to put a little bit of something in there to help out with that. Oop, oop. I gotta adjust that camera stand because it's in a road. But I do like the new placement. I like the crispness, everything. get the lid back on this ink because, as I've learned, if I do not, I will spill it. And a fresh spill on a new mat will bum me out. Okay. So here, on this little piece of paper towel, you can see how thick we're coming on. It's a little too dense for what we have right now. So I'm going to add quite a bit more thinner. Nothing crazy. I shouldn't say quite a bit. I'm going to add a little bit more thinner. We're going to get that mixed up. Let's do a kind of a big spray. Get that little bit of excess out of here. Okay. And so now we're just, let me get a paper towel. Alright, so now we're just looking at the tops of things. Too much paper first. Just finding the tops of these, and it'll smooth out those adjustments we made before. Crispin that up over top of the shadows. So let's take, for example, the back of this hand here, where we're all desaturated, our tone is off, and just punch this up a little bit. And it's not like it's going to make a big adjustment at first, but we're going to add more of this vibrant blue and smooth it out even more. Little adjustments. We need to get crazy, little by little, and it'll start to build up. So I'm just going to spray a good chunk of this out. We're going to add a little more of this cerulean blue as our highlight color. Drops might have been too quick of an adjustment, to be honest. It's so powerful, this blue. So we'll see. And eventually here, probably after this step, we're going to add a little bit of the titanium white to the mix. And just... Just taking these knuckles up. Blood Angel Nash says, what's this? I feel spoiled. Spoiled by the Saturday stream, or did you get some work done, Nash? What's up? I like the setup you had going on. So just hit it with some air to clean that up. Slowly, you know. Easy does it kind of thing. This is also the kind of thing that you can practice your control with the airbrush, because I wish regularly I was better at it. Okay, we're going to need another drop of this varnish for sure, because then we'll locate titanium white. I was here mere moments ago. Found it again. Nice. Says Saturday stream spoils. It's a non-permanent setup. Sadly, still sharing a room with my brother due to rent going out of the roof. Oh yeah. So well, the moment I get permanent setup, it will be 100 times better. Oh, there it is. One drop. And we're gonna do this one drop at a time because they say these are both so strong. I don't know who's gonna win quicker. If this was a larger piece, I would say that was fine. But since he's so small, we need to get a little dramatic quicker than normal. Yeah, nice and pale, nice and, look at that baby blue. I think this is going to be as bright as we go for a chunk of him. Just do a big spray so we're through all that old paint. Start with his hand, his little knuckle. Sorry, my nose is a little itchy here. Yeah, nice. That's good though. I mean, you got a good idea of what you want to do with your setup once you do find permanency. I still struggle to figure out what I want to do and where I want to do it. And I do have a permanent setup, permanent opportunity. We're going to do, just spray a bunch of this out of here. I'm going to do one more drop of white. Let's see where we're at with that. I also can't help but feel like my camera's adjusting the color for something real quick. It seems a little gray, does it not? Daylight. Profiles off. Gamma's off. I suppose that's right. So we have this beautiful little thing here. Let's see what we can't do with just the teeniest part of him. I'm going to step back and just... Oh, thank you, Nature. Oh, we'll get a look at those. I see him going in now. Alright, let's get this cleaned out. Give me just a second to get this cleared out of here. Make sure our needle is tidy. We can bail back now. Another thing that varnish helps with is the dry tipping. One of the things people complain a lot about is using white in general and getting dry tip from, let alone the pigments or the ink. They'll get it from just general white paint or white primer especially. But since I've started the adding a little bit of varnish in with it, just listening to see if I'm getting a whistle or anything. I haven't had any of those problems. So yeah, here we go. We've made it a skin tone. I think right now I'm gonna go grab another cup of coffee and it'll be like 8 seconds. When I come back, we'll do his leathers. I gotta figure out how to operate around this thing. It's definitely new to me. New place. With the updates. Oh yeah. Take a look at these. Let's see what we got here. Nash says. Oh yeah. Oop. Oop. I love the posing. Are these... Did they come with these bases? These are sick. I like the green you picked for the robe as well. The cream and the green really break up the red. Plasma coil. That's cool. That's what's up. Let's see here. Making sure, because I got a bunch of messages. Catching up with everybody. All right, let's get back at it. More work. So I like red browns with my trolls because of the blue. Like the red really does look really nice against it. And so there's a couple of ways to do that. I think I'm going to start out with a Doom Bowl brown because I don't see my blood tracker sitting anywhere convenient. Or Bloodstone. Can't recall the name. I always mix the two up until I see them. I'll see it. I'll ask for Bloodstone or Blood Tracker. I'll look at the one and be like, that's not at all what I want. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's the Bloodstone. It's a nice, somewhat desaturated, but not crazily desaturated brown. And here's the Blood Tracker. That's the difference. The Blood Tracker is truly desaturated. No good. All right. Let's see what we have here. So we're gonna start this. I'm gonna use my mixer. I'm gonna lay this down. And then I'm also gonna take some of that purple ink. I don't know if that'll work out well, but it may. We're gonna use that as our shadow for it. And then our highlight is going to be a bit more ochre, and so I'm going to use some Baylor brown. I don't have a good ochre handy otherwise. Ochre is just yellow, by the way, if anybody's not familiar. I'm going to add a little bit of this yellow in as our highlight. And so we'll have a nice highlight shadow mixture. I don't love the effect I'm getting out of this ink. I don't think it's opaque enough or saturated enough to do what I want it to do. So I'm going to find a good purple color sitting out here, and we'll go with that. You know, the sanguine base might do the job, but I'm thinking I might even need to go into like a beaten purple or something to that effect. This is good. Alright, we'll just, again, because he's smaller, I'm not going to work with too much a bigger brush, but this is still a size 4, so we're not doing anything crazy. Okay, now, this is not glazed back, but I do have a little bit of water in here to get the paint rolling. What we're going to do is I'm just going to take that blood tracker, nope, bloodstone. I'll use that. I always mix them up. The bloodstone, and we're just going to start laying it into these recesses nicely. And then we're going to grab the sanguine base mix, right? So that's our shadows. And now here we come with our primary color. And we'll just wet blend that together alongside. And then out here where we have our highlights, get a little bit of this ochre in here, this Baylor brown. We'll just lay that down. So we're working our way from a purple to a yellow. Nothing crazy. This should make for a nice mixture. I did say I would talk about this bar. And so as I dance around, I can use this to turn the model, truthfully, as its greatest asset to me. Oracle of Twilight! Oh my god! Howdy, sir. Good to catch you. Good to catch you as well. How have you been? I've just been keeping up with your beautiful photos on Instagram. Haven't had a chance to catch one another in quite a while. I might even get a little more sanguine base out. This is... yeah, we'll get a little more shadow color in there. Let me do that right now. Oracle of Twilight got that coveted first beside you. This sanguine base tone mixture into the shadows. And then, well, it's still wet. In general, we're going to grab more of that blood tracker, bloodstone. I'm going to get it right one of these times. We'll mix that on top. Not really worrying about too much the shape, so much as just where things are in a recess versus when they're going to be in a highlight. And then, yeah. And then we'll get some of that ochre tone. Nothing crazy at first. Just more yellow instead of red. So we're going to go through an orange phase here on our way to it. Oracle says, oh man, COVID, you know, all that jazz. Yeah, I think we all know that jazz. Blood Angel Najee. Yeah, our tone is double playing today, which is better than yesterday when it wouldn't play at all, for what that's worth. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in and supporting like this. A donation from Sorcerer earlier to 2 subs. Just a feel-good kind of day. Plus, I'm painting on a Saturday, so that's nice too. Yellow out because, you know, back in the back of the model, it's one thing if you've got pretty dull highlights, but on the front, if you don't come correct with the highlights, it's gonna look poor. So let's start with this. Nash says, I placed one of my eliminators in cover. Oh, did you send that on Discord? I'll get into that in just a second. As we work our way to the front of the model. I don't know if I'm going to do the cuffs a different color or not just yet, but here where the transition happens, I think we'll take the highlight a little bit further. We'll just grab some more of that original mid-tone-ish that was our highlight in the back. All right, I'll grab that in just a second, Nash. We'll just transition it. Darker. I'm just look at how much paint is in my brush right now, you know. We're just kind of in a smooth way, just finding these colors and working them in. And then maybe a little bit out here on the tails, we'll get a little bit more of this. Here, yeah, and it's just because this is sensitive time-wise, we're going to hold off just a minute, but we're going to get there. Put eliminating some cover. That's where they belong. They got to be hiding, you know. some shadow tones in here. Get this other darker tone. It's the important thing when you start with wet blending like this, that you maintain. You got to keep the paint wet, or it's not gonna do you any good. I don't know what we're gonna do with the fold on the pocket here, but let me just get a little bit more down, and then we'll probably work some highlights onto it. Oh, perfect. Just about to ruin this hand. Get him quick. Slap a bunch of brown paint. Let's see what we have here. Try to touch this up, and then we're gonna go look at Nash's photo. Why? Silly hot air. Trying out my paints. Use the fan if I'm being honest. Alright, we're better. Starting to come together pretty nicely, I think. Let's see what Nash is doing here with the cover. That's a good angle. If you're gonna take a photo of the squad, like posting up, that'd be good. I'd like to paint some of those. Those are fun. Danny's back. Welcome back, Danny. So just use that little bit darker tone in the back, and then we will bring our brighter tone here into the front. A little bit of water in the mixture, just on account of the humidity and the heat. Already we're going to come across a little bit darker back here, even though it's on the top, it's nearer to the back. And so as I come across with the next tone, we'll get that mixed in nicely. It should read pretty well. Because our goal and everything with this is to direct people's line of sight, or what they find appealing to look at, to be the front of the model. So I'm going to grab even a little bit darker tone for down here in this crevice. So we have some contrast in there. Well, in general. And then we'll get some of this yellow in our mixture. And Blood Angel Nash says, I'm playing some Space Engineers at the moment. Oh yeah? Painting? playing or painting? What do we got going on here? I'm just gonna stipple some of this highlight in here. You don't need it to be super smooth, it's leather, but we do want some tonal variation. Probably right beside where we have our highlight. Just a little bit further back. Alright, at the same time, let's see. We're applying the employ some finger taps maybe. Let's try to get little bits on these edges here, these wrinkles. This is probably the mid-tone for the front of the model as far as leather goes, but here on the back makes quite a nice highlight. Just gonna continue to build these up. That's no good. Feather that out a little bit here. I'm still getting used to this new placement of the lens, so bear with as I bring in little highlights here. I think that'll help me define my shadows a little bit. I know that I'm gonna have to re-highlight things once I come back through and shade, but I think this is an important step, at least at my level, to find the pieces that need the attention. Danny M with the host. Thank you, Danny. Says, love how matte this paintwork is. Matte. Love how matte this paintwork is. Like I said, a glossy. That's exactly what this is. Hang on. All right. Let's get these highlights built up here. A whole bunch up here. He's still very blue. Get that covered up. I'm going to take the highlights one more step after this, but I want to lay them in and then shade them back once. Like the top of the hat here. Oracle Twilight is going to lurk, man. Hey, thanks so much for hopping in. You know, when we have more time, we can chat some, maybe. Good to know things are going all right for you out there. Oracle and I could not be... I don't know if we could be further apart in the globally right now. This peak here, possibly a little bit down. down here. This is what this bar is for, really. For me to hold my thumb on. These little peaks again and again. Again over here, let's take a little shadow tone. Let's really bolster these wrinkles. This is what I'm talking about with why I have to define things and then I can go back through and re-highlight them. Because if I can figure out where I need to do this, just come through and like really darken things. Might even nice rich shadow, I can bring really sharp highlights beside it. And if you don't, then you just have like a really bright area or a really dark area and there's really nothing worth looking at in there at that time. So since this is going to be highlighted, we're going to bring a pack of shadow right underneath it, kind of sketchily, but still on the other side. Same thing up here. So next thing would be probably pretty much just our brighter highlight tone, and so that looks like this. Sense. Of course, on the front, we're going to have to do the same thing, but I think this is the way to do this. We can use our airbrush to smooth it out. Take the time to do the diligence to get everything locked in. And I think we're going to need a little brighter tone to this as well. So we're going to punch this contrast up another level. Do a little off-white ivory if you use Vallejo. I've got Meneth white base here. Screaming Skull from Citadel, it's all the same. This is going to seem like we're going a little too high on the highlights, and I think truthfully we are. But the reality is once I come back through with a mid-tone and smooth it out, it'll look far less sketchy and it'll read better. This heat, paints are drying out a little faster than I want them to. I don't generally like to add very much, if any, water, like the control. It comes with not having that, but sure it's not too much, you know? And we're just working this highlights into where they need to be. Using finger taps where necessary to keep it from flowing too much. Drying too solidly and making it look like a straight line or something like that. He says you haven't even had that model for a week. Damn son, look at that progress. Thank you. I just started it this morning. Well, 2 hours ago. Let's get yeah, we're gonna do some wet blending up here. I think this can look good. I'm just gonna get some colors down here and then just get them pocketed into where they need to be generally. Just tap them in. I think if I put a little bit of that down, then we'll grab our highlight. This will give it a transition I was kind of looking for before. Could not. Get. Sorcerer. Corbin says, hi, Uncle Chris. He thinks it's like video chat. It is. Corbin. Hello, Corbin. How are you? What is the word of the day? It's always worth asking, right? I also primed up this gentleman. And I started work on this big beast. That's about all the further I've gotten with this as well. Model prep and priming, but he's got an elbow needs cleaned up. But I like this Mayhem and what's his name? Melvin? Mayhem and... That's what I need to make sure where I'm painting. I've been feeling like things are soft, but then I can read the tiny text here, so I'm feeling like... I feel like if you can read the text, then it's okay. I was about to set this down and get the paint out. So we're just gonna... I'm grabbing some colors so I can do gold tones. I'm gonna do his little regalia around his chest. And then we'll hop into... that's the black. Then we'll hop into his shoulders. What color? Actually, 5088. Andrew, what are we going to do with his shoulder pad? Should that be metal colored? What should that be? And we already know what color we're doing the tabard in. Red. Steel or bronze? Yeah. I think we'll do a nice... Tyndall's red is not what I want. This crimson is not what I want. I moved things so that I could... There's the Arbuckle brown. Your lady's namesake. This is my shadow color for my golds. I love this brown. It's got a lot of red in it. It'll turn pink on you in a jiff. So this is actually the color I like to use to start out my my golds. So I'm just trying to find the edges of these things. It's got like a nice little purpley flow to it. That's not ideal. Don't do it. Goodness. Right there. This doesn't come off, it's not the end of the world, but it would be nice not to have to fuss with it too much. I should probably not be using a size 4 brush for this, but you know what it is. It's going to make sluggers good. Should see who I am sometime. Yeah, maybe when we get together we can play around with that a little bit. Gonna base the whole thing. I believe those are his metals, and then this is just going to be a crude coating here because I've got to do the rest of this before I even think about the rest of the shoulder pad before I even think about doing the gold portion. Why not? We'll put some on the rivets. Just coat the whole thing. We're at it. Else would be gold on him, probably his buckle. tail end of this pistole. Coming together all right. Let's get his belt buckle in here as well. Gonna run look pretty damn good. Well, thank you. I don't know what I want to do for the robe entirely, but I'm thinking a little sanguine base. Might even. Nah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna do it red. We're gonna do it red. Nice shadow color here. I'm gonna use that same Arbuckle's brown as my shadow color for the red because it's like a nice brownish purple. A little bit of water will help this. I'll go a long way because it's scale series paint and it is very thirsty. All right. Here I'm just gonna try to paint these recesses. Again, this is just that red mixed in. Control under this. As it bushels up around his belt and things. I'm gonna overpaint a little bit some of these areas, but I think it's the right way to do it. Okay, so that'll be our shadow tone for the red. As I mix more of this in, we can get a lot more specific. Now, hang on. Let's just do this now. All right. Oop. Haha. New camera. Pull these red tones out more and more with each layer. And I think one of the things that will benefit us here is that red is such a it really does need to be coaxed out anytime you paint with it. It just really does take layer after layer to get it to turn into its actual color. I think we can leverage that to help us here, because it's going to dry muted each layer, and so I can go through and paint less and less, create these nice smooth transitions between. And I don't even need to highlight it so much as just let it dry and give it another coat. As long as I treat it like it's a highlight and I'm only painting less and less, I should be able to accomplish this goal. And if I ever get too excited and mess it up, we can always glaze it back with some more of that Arbuckles, bring those shadows back out of it. And in fact, before we do our highlights, it might be a good idea to actually do that, to bring some of that pure Arbuckle into the shadows before we go to pure red and highlights. already I think we have a nice little transition here. Dane says, I'm tired, man. You're tired? What's up? Long day with the kids. I get that. The family. How's the little one, Danny? How are things with the newborn? How's the lady Danny holding up? Get control of this a little bit. So I'm gonna I'm not going to fuss around too much up here, just on account of how delicate it is. But I think that's a good look so far. Let me also see this here. He says, trying to do shopping with a 3-year-old and 8-year-old stressful, and the wife and little miss are good. That is great to hear. I'm going to add a little bit of this Menoth white base that I've been using as my highlight color for everything. And get a little bit of this into the red for a highlight color. So we'll make a nice pink something here. Take much to make an impact. Let's check our so we're just gonna I don't think I have the red saturated enough yet to do so. We need to get more red on here before we can start looking at pink. Again, that's what I'm talking about when I say it takes so many coats to get red to show up correctly. I know that can take it out of you, Danny. Gren, no cookies. Welcome on in. Everybody, I'm going to apologize in advance for the echo. Streamlabs wouldn't even... I don't know what's going on. I've had to re-authenticate things and drop new links to things. We'll get it figured out. It wouldn't even play the other day. Not gonna play it twice. Right. Defend. Everybody coming in. How you doing? How was the stream, Gren? Just trying to get this red to saturate fully. Possibly get it highlighted a little bit more. Gren says, LOL, Streamlabs would like you to know it hates you like it hates the rest of us. If you thought you were special, you're not. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. A little bit of Streamlabs reminding me that, I thought we were on good terms, but they're like, listen, homie, you're going to be complicated with me forever. Okay. Never settle. I'm thinking about going to like straight up OBS. I'm not gonna lie to you. Grin says, gotta lurk and make some food, but have a wonderful stream. Hey, thank you for thinking of me when you came on in. Enjoy your Saturday. I'm getting texty texts. How's everybody else doing? What do we have here? Oh boy. Okay. So we've been playing around with this for a little while. Let's see. Let's come in here and get some details. What do we think about the, so far? I'm going to grab a smaller brush now. We're finally to the point where we're going to get a smaller brush. What do you know about that? Let me get a little bit of water here. Again, these Scale Series paints are so thirsty. They like to have a lot of... They need more water than I think every single time. Okay. Here I'm just... cleaning this out. So here, this will dry duller than it's going on, because that's just the way red does it. Finally time to step down to the size 2 detail brush, Red is one of those colors that's so pretty. When you get it saturated, when you get it doing what you want it to do. But the time and effort it takes to get it there is extensive. Let's get a little bit of this out here as well. Let's also get these little ribbons up here. I know I skipped a lot of the blending stages previously but they're so small, I think you just have to jump dramatically with that sometimes. Let's try to get this saturated up here as well. Alright, here we come with a little bit brighter pinky pink. And less and less each time. Little itty bitties. I guess this is as bright pink as I want to go on this, but maybe we'll push it. Maybe we'll push our luck. How fancy do we want to get is another question. Let's get fancy. Why not? He's the tiny general. He deserves respect. And go along with that, maybe he will do a good job with his little roby robe. His tartan. So I'm gonna take this pink up to a very nightmarish level. Borderline fluorescent at this point. Sort of stippling it in here to keep it There's his beautiful little roby robe. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take some of this original red. I'm going to glaze it back. Oop. Because I got some white still in the brush. Okay. So we can get some of this red with no BS. We're going to glaze them back. Sometimes I use an ink for this because the pigment density is so strong. But I've never done this with scale series, so no, it's not going to go. All right, we're going to use an ink. And I'm going to water it back with not the typical dilution. Add a little bit of the paint to it so that the colors are the same, or at least similar. But we're going to add, instead of water, we're going to use varnish. The reason for this is red is one of those colors that's prone to staining. I don't really feel like, after having done all this work, having that happen to me. So I'm adding a little bit of matte and gloss varnish because my matte is so matted. It just is. So I'm just going to try to be careful with that. Let's see where our glazing construction is. It's fairly darn thin. Okay, so here along these ridges, what we're going to do is we're just going to glaze over it with a little bit of red. This is true of all of it. We're going to glaze this thinly over the whole entirety of the thing, but on each layer we're being careful to make it the most saturated on our peaks, where our pink is, so that the purple remains in the recesses and our pink is just getting filtered a little bit with each layer to effectively dye it a little bit red. And we can see here on my finger how thin it is. It's going to smooth those transitions the whole way through, but also we're just going to do enough layers so that our reds are saturated over top of those pinks, kind of filtering the pinks, and it'll be brightest there. And it'll be darkest over the purple. There's no shortcuts to this. If it's a big enough area, you can use an airbrush, but it's not as good. It's still these manual layers, very thin, always the right way. Add a little bit more of the matte varnish to the mix because I think we're a little bit glossier than I expected. Okay, and that's a red robe, little tartan guy. tone down these highlights a very little bit. A little glaze here. I thought about doing this with the airbrush, but I think we're going to paint for another half hour. Let's see about getting some of the rest of these base layers in. Then we can worry about detailing things from there. I'm going to use some of this coal black. It actually makes a nice denim color when you use a little bit of yellow off-white to it. So back to that Menoth white base. Okay, so I'm going to start for the pantaloons. Let's see. We'll start here. Try to bridge our gap with the jacket and our shadow colors. Also, since we've got the tartan in. Oh, hey, new camera. Sorry about that, everyone. Since we have this. Because of this humidity, let's get a little bit more. Actually, today I think it's not humidity, I think it's just heat. Might be overpainting the boot a very little bit, but you know, I think it's all right. It's still wet. I'm going to grab that next brighter tone. I'm just going to start to lay that in along the top. Just to establish a predefined highlight. And then we'll even go a little bit brighter because we're mixing and kind of going as we go. While everything's still wet, just come across here and start to pick out those details a little bit, maybe even a little bit down there. Not so bad at all. Then we'll do the same thing on this other side. Alright, so we've got this little tiny patch of paint here. Everything that's around it. I want that to show up, so there we go. Grab our brighter color. We just start working our way forward where a light source would be. I'm sure there's better ways to do this, but for me, this is how I can ensure that my layers are as smooth as I can get them. Alright, so there's that. I'm actually not so happy with the first one I did. I'm a lot happier with the second. So I'm going to come back at this with a little bit more contrast. Lay a little bit more. This is probably, I would call a glaze of our original, that coal black shadow tone. All I'm doing is just laying this down here in the recesses a little bit. We kind of come through. PFK says, "Evening, you smooth-voiced, bearded, beautiful specimen of a man. How are you?" Thank you so much, PFK. How are you? Everybody coming in with the flattery today. We got a new camera layout. We got to be a little tighter to the model now. When we want to be, we're punched in. I think I'm going to use some of this nice pale color that I'm highlighting with down here. I think I'm going to use that as like my jacket liner, maybe. That's pretty darn nice. Let's see. Let's check it out here in the cuff. No, I don't know. I'm changing my mind already. We got to get these glasses another color. These stunner shades. PFK says, looking really good. Well, thank you. Yeah, we just started this not too long ago. I was working on detailing a little bit of these different areas. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the cuff here. Maybe we'll just ochre it up. We'll just take our highlight color and just use that. What mini is this looking like? A really fun one. This is one of the newer releases for Privateer Press's Riot Quest. I don't know what I want to do with these cuffs. Actually, you know what? Forget it. Treat them as if they're the same color as the rest of the jacket and move on. That's the move. Sort out the rest in time. Yeah, sorry, I was about ready to read your comment again. I'm sorry. Details squared away. I wasn't certain what some of these were when I started, and so I was just holding off. But now it's time. I need to probably look at some examples of other painted versions of him, or this jacket that he's stolen, and because it belongs to another faction, and go from there. That way I know I'm not going to make too many mistakes. PFK says, need to sit down at the painting desk and start for the evening. There you go. I need to probably get up and move around for the day. But I really want to get the base coats in on this guy, and then we'll do that. For right now, I think I just want to get them laid in, and we can go from there. The shoulder pad and the gun. I don't know what I want to do for that color. We got blues and purples and reds, so we're on that side. So if we do a colder, it's all warm tones for right now. If we do get something cold in there, it could look nice in contrast. So a nice blue gray. We've already got quite a bit of black out, so if I'm gonna try this color here. Mix a little bit of this pale blue. We'll see what we can get. Maybe that'll turn into something nice to look at. That's a nice neutral bluey gray. Okay, again with the Scale Series paints, if you don't get some water in there, it will betray me. Get a nice smooth coat here of something neutral, and then we'll go from there. Sorcerer says, thanks Chris, now I'm ordering more Riot Quest miniatures. You liking this guy? The Tiny General is good. I think with as thin as we're coming with the paint, we're going to need to do 2 coats of this. I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll hit it again in just a moment. Let's start with this gun and try to make sense of its detail here. It's got wood, and it also has some brass, or what I think I'm going to do is gold banding on it. It's just so important to separate the details here to try to make sense of the model before I move on. The trigger around a finger, not a finger. And then I can move forward in color, tonality, a little bit more of this pale blue. Even though we're still wet, I think that's good in places. Maybe even a little bit more. Let's see what we got here. Hiticule says, I've got him waiting to be primed along with Melvin and Mayhem. Oh yeah, I just primed up the Wanderer, Melvin and Mayhem, and this guy this morning, and he was calling to me, said, you put colors on me. And so I did. But Melvin and Mayhem, once I get done with this little bit of wet blending I'm doing, I'll show him to you as well. Oh, forget it. He's right here. He's ready to go. Oh no! We'll leave Melvin right there. Have a peek at him while I... Nope. Still too dark. We gotta fix the music. Gotta fix this blend. It's very complicated right now. Want to show off Melvin? Let's get, if I can still get this color on here while it's still wet, I think it'll blend so nicely, but I'm struggling to be fast enough. It's the heat messing me up. Let me get the Tiny General. Check this guy out while I get the music a-rockin' again. Alright, so we did that. Alright. Actually, the music site's having a bit of an issue right now, so let me close out that tab and start another. Nope, Chrome. Just Chrome. We're good. This is going to be likely very loud here initially. I'll try to mute it real quick and see if I can get it drugged back. Let me know how we are coming across in terms of volume. Okay, PFK says, ooh, I like that one. So this guy's actually pretty cool for the game because you can play these guys as a hero, or look at this mold line we gotta clean up before I get into it. This whole arm has got some mold line happening. We gotta find them. But anyway, you can play him as a player in the game, like as part of your team, or you can play another game type with its own set of cards that he comes with, and you can play a boss fight where you and it's up to or you and 3 others, so it's either 3 or 4 people can try to fight him, and he's a beast. He's an absolute beast. So he looks really cool for a big old robot. I'm gonna stop handling him because of the metal models. You don't want to handle too much till you get them varnished. Alright. Now where were we? We're working on highlights and shadows over here. Of course, we can get into detailing this thing out for a very long time, and I don't know that we're going to get into all that, but we can, for the time being at least, lay in some rudimentary highlights and shadows. And because we're working pretty quick, we're still fairly wet, and so they will blend pretty well on their own. This edge here. This hand cannon. Such a fun, just a feel-good company with a feel-good game. I like it a lot. Let's just see if I can't do one more round of just tight little somethings here for the highlights. Just like I said, we can always go back. If I glaze it enough, let's see where we're at with that intensity. Now we can make sure that I haven't overpainted some of these recesses. They'll still remain quite a bit contrasty. And a lot of this will take multiple coats, and we'll want to smooth things over, but that's a good start, I'd say. Base coat his boots real quick. And little booties. He does have some cartoonishly large feet, doesn't he? 4. Yeah, so it's up to 4 that they can fight with those 2. That's cool. Yeah, I thought that would be a nice pickup for, like, you know, we're in an era of small gatherings, right? It's important to, like, at this stage of the game, just start getting colors on things, even if it's not their permanent tone. I'm just using the belt. Oh, hey, I forgot this pocket earlier. I don't even know this color's still got any paint in it, so I think we're okay. We still got a little water in it. It's good. Have I forgot to paint anything else? Yeah, right along here. My goodness. But yeah, we were doing just the belts, and then maybe I'll use that same color that's on the belt on this little strap piece here. Just a subtly different leather, nothing crazy. Oops. Everything's so tacky right now because of the fan and the heat. PFK says, started working on this, gentleman. Oh, give me a second. Let me get these boots covered, and then we'll have a peek. I need this color first. We need something a little more opaque. I don't know what the end color for these boots are going to be, but I just wanted to get something on them so I can start to see where everything's going to end up. Let me take a peek. I need to figure out how to paint realistic gray hair. Ooh, I like what you're doing around the eyes. Gray hair and beard. Well, what I would do is start off with whatever color you want to suggest his hair is. Like if he was blonde, or if he had black hair or brown hair, whatever that was, I would start the conversation there. And I would paint his hair, whatever the, like his mid-tone for whatever that color is. Okay, let's just say he has black hair. So you would still highlight black hair, right? So whatever your mid-tone for that hair would be, I would start there. If it's brown or blonde or whatever, have the mid-tone be the shadow color, and then start to work your highlights in from there. And just instead of stopping, start to work more of that desaturated gray edition of whatever the color of the hair is, and see how that goes. That would be my starting point. Now, I don't know if that's the right answer or what, but that would be my... And of course, if ever important, do some research. Because I don't know. I would be practicing, I'd be trying with that approach, you know. Tiny General's got some stunners on him. Yeah, feels globby now. Maybe I'll bring some blonde or brown strands just to make it interesting. Reckon I'll work in some skin tone into the gray and make thinner hair as well. There you go. Sounds like a good plan. Need to work work it tonight. Hopefully I'll sort it out. Yeah, I think it's going to take some practice, and it's also going to take the other trial and error, really. This guy has a grenade on him. I'm gonna catch that. Alright, what was the other thing I was gonna do? I had this art buckle out. I was gonna work on some gold tones. And I ended up using it in the red. Getting distracted. Let's see. We better get this point a little bit sharper. We're actually doing detail work here. So we're going to turn this brown color that I've put down into an actual goldish tone. Angsta Kitsune! I thought these Troll Bloods were finished. This is for Riot Quest. He's just a little, like a hero for the game. And when they announced him, I was like, oh, I have to have him, you know? He's so fun. And you know I love the trolls. That is way too glazed back. Hang on. I might need to get more paint out. I think I put a little too much water in there. So this is your current self project. So yeah, it's for me. Hidekyo says he's actually in my Spec Ops team for Riot Quest. Spec Ops? What's that? I'm excited to play test with him, to be honest. I love the trolls so much. Bear with me, everybody, as I try to come through here and find these little medals. My head creeps into the frame. Let's just make sure we're, yeah. And then we have this one as well. Goodness, this guy has got all the regalia. Have to repaint the leather strap on the belt, but at least we'll start to define the, oh, and here. If I have any, maybe not. Makes me feel better. Okay, he's actually 10 models, but only 2 classes. Oh, I gotta read more about these different game types. That sounds like a lot of fun. He says, have you seen the latest Night Models Thompson Wayne Batman? I have not. If you'd like to share, I'd love to have a look. got to get more of this paint out. That's what I'm realizing. Yes. Base coat properly applied real quick. Do all these bands in gold. Okay, I'm seeing this now too. Got a little tiny band on this little nodular piece. What was the other thing that didn't have paint on? I think it was this little chunk right here along the star. And I'm also thinking that this makes a fine color, like a fine color, for his little pointer piece here. At least to start. Feels better to have things coated and done, like just things with the link. We'll get to that in just a few moments. Get some of this paint down first. We're gonna be wrapping up here in the next 5 to 10 maybe, depending on what kind of progress I make here. Let's see. Just adding a little bit more brown to this because the color's looking awfully purple. But I think it makes a good base coat. Had good coverage. Certainly did that job well. What did I even do with this? Ink says, looking forward to seeing your personal projects. Oh, yeah. One of them is going to be half of a dynamic duo. Ooh. Who painted that? Whoever Night Models got to paint this did a fantastic job. Oh, my God. I'm keeping that up. Sorry. That is nice. Just gonna encroach on, get a big old brush load of paint here. We're gonna start getting the base layers for the golden highlights down. do the gun separately because I forgot to do something to it already. So we'll come back and hit it differently. Which I think gold banding on a gun can be different than the emblems and so forth. Alright, did I miss anything? The belt. Let's get this little detail here on the top of his belt buckle. Thank you, Inks, for thinking about my personal projects. I'm excited to paint for myself a little bit for a little while. I got to get Ray's piece wrapped up and wrapped. I got the piece for amp services all but done. You got the basing and then a little bit of things on the backpack to do, and it'll be out of there. Pale yellow, but it's super good for mixing up the golds. Remember our lesson from earlier. Make sure we have plenty of water in the paint before it dries out in the heat. Quite the jump up, I think. Let's see if it's too much or not. Tiny little star here. Little belt buckle. And then that was just still a mixture, so now we're going to step it up to like mostly just that color. Let's see. Likely here I may glaze back a little bit of the shadow tones to rectify some of these over highlightings I did on those tinier pieces. But here I think it's looking pretty darn good. Got all these little pieces going here, and I'm gonna like the center of this and the center of this are, I think they can all be different colors. What though? I think we're gonna just get the tiniest amount of this in here. Alright, I think that's it for today. I think we're gonna find someone to raid into. This is an excellent test for the new setup. Realizing that I need to move a couple of things so I don't bump into them while I'm sitting here. Let's see who all is online. With Jex is on? Yeah, we're gonna raid Jex. If anybody in here is not looking to end up in a not safe for work kind of just language content a little bit, Jex is an incredible artist, great assembler of miniatures, and an all-around good dude. So we're gonna go check Jex out, and hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Start getting this prepped for put a little cherry on there. Let's see. Probably a couple of layers of this will get it done. Try another one, a little bit brighter. A little bit brighter. It's gonna come together. I don't know if the yellow will work, if we can do it before the raid happens. Alright, everybody. Hope everyone has a wonderful day. Enjoy your raid over to Jex. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, your Sunday, your weekend.